Hey guys, welcome back. Bite Size Builds episode 5. I'm Enigmius, and today, 3 degrees of edge smoothing for straight lines. That's right, we've done edge smoothing on the circles, but now it's time to talk about straight lines because this is an area where the whole idea of edge smoothing with microblocks of any kind can really shine. Now, if you're playing strictly vanilla Minecraft, you don't want to get into the modding scene, that's fine. I've got an example of what you can do with slabs, just the regular Minecraft slabs. It'll give you an opportunity to do something similar. To get the most out of this, you really want to be using a micro block mod like Forge Multipart that gives you the full functionality of the whole sort of micro block concept in terms of being able to align the blocks any way you want, stack them on top of one another. We're going to take a look at that briefly in a minute, but first of all, we've got our triangle that we were working on in the last episode. I haven't really touched it since the episode. We'll come back. There we go. You can see we've got these angled edges. And much like anything in Minecraft, there's still a bit of blockiness to them. It's very, very difficult to avoid that under any circumstances, but there's always that question in the back of a person's mind is, can we do this a little bit better? Now, when I set this up, this is basically a guide for me. We're actually going to be embedding this triangle shape in the circular platform there, and this triangle is just kind of helping us decide exactly where we're going to be putting those blocks when we embed it, so that we don't waste a lot of time mucking about digging through the circles trying to get everything to fit the way it's supposed to. So what I did when I did the edge smoothing in the last episode was, if I changed a whole block, this used to be a dirt block right here, if I changed it for the sake of microblocks, the slabs in this case, then I made the slabs with concrete. If I didn't change it, I just left it as the dirt that we used for the layout. So you can see not every block was changed in order to do this smoothing with the slabs. You can see all the way down, there's alternating dirt and concrete the whole way down. So it's not, you don't have to change every single block. It's not a laborious sort of concept. And all we've really done, we come over here, is we've taken this basic pattern, the 2-2-1 pattern that we looked at in a previous episode, that gives us the proper angle for an equilateral triangle. You can see here, there's 2 blocks and then it steps over 1 block, and then it's 2 and it steps over, and then it's 1 and it steps over. So if we can take that and smooth it somehow, then that becomes kind of neat. So we go like that, we get rid of this whole block, and we replace it with a slab here in the spot where the whole block was, and another slab there. And then all of a sudden, these 3 blocks, just forgetting everything past them for a second, these 3 blocks are now, instead of a kind of a blocky, almost curve, you can kind of get a straight line sort of idea happening out of them, which is pretty cool. There's still a limit to what you can do when you're working with slabs of any kind. So one of the things I wanted to point out is that with vanilla Minecraft, you have access to slabs that you can use for, if you wanted to, for example, build something that was like a triangle tipped up on its side, you can do that slab edge smoothing with what's already included with vanilla Minecraft. You've got your stone slabs that you can attach to the top or the bottom of a block, and then as you move across, you can just kind of decide whether you're going to use a slab stacked on a slab or whether you're going to use a whole block down on the ground, something like that, and give yourself that slightly more smoothed angle to everything. It's still micro blocks, it's just the implementation is a little bit more rough around the edges, so to speak. So that's basically the whole idea between edge smoothing with slabs for that 2-2-1 pattern, is whenever you've got a situation where you can slide one over by half a block is what it works out to, you can do that, but you still get to these points where you can't slide it over and get it to overlap. So look at this block here as our example. Currently it's contacting this by the corner only, which is fine. We can accept that in Minecraft with full blocks. We can say that that's close enough to overlapping. If we try to move this over so that it, kind of overlaps a little bit more and looks a little bit smoother here, then it's only contacting this corner. There's nothing we can do. We have to leave this block here, and we have to accept that there's that step across. Not necessarily a bad thing, because it's still an improvement over the unmodified version like that. But if we start getting into the microblocks, that's when things get a little bit more interesting. This is that same pattern, the 2-2-1 repeating, but instead of stepping over a half block wherever possible, we're stepping over 5/8 of a block. And what that does is when we get to this section here where there's no overlap, we're just connecting at the corners, we've gained 1/8 of a block all the way down. So that's overlapping a half block and still overlapping here. You can see this is where it's overlapping by a half block instead of stepping a whole block like there. And then we continue on with the 3/8. It's this barely noticeable difference, so that when we come down here, we can see it's as close to a straight line as we can really get, unless we get into some of the really crazy mods that let you do a much greater degree of smoothing, because those are still in development and tend to be pretty resource intensive. But if we go above, just so we can look at them side by side, we can see as well, there's quite a difference. This one here, for all practical intents and purposes, is a straight line, whereas this one has that stepping every 5 blocks or so. Try and get some altitude that'll stay. We've got the stepping every 5 blocks or so. It's still better than just the naked 2-2-1 pattern, but it's, you know, it could be better, and over here it is better. So that's kind of where we're going with this whole idea. Now, the last thing that I just wanted to demonstrate, I've demonstrated this in the past, but under the circumstances it bears repeating, and that's the ability to stack micro blocks. Now, if you start, this is a full block, right? This is your just regular block of anything, whatever it happens to be. And then this would be a micro block slab. The difference between this slab and, say, this slab is that this one, you can see, you can stack it on end so that you can get a lot more freedom in terms of the orientation of what you're trying to do with them. This is a panel, which is 1/4 of a block. And then this is a cover, which is 1/8 of a block. And of course, the important detail, we'll just kind of recover some of these blocks because we need them. It's if we start with a slab, so this is our half block, we can then take, for example, a panel and stack it right on there, and it extends it by 1/4 of a block without giving you a visible line that indicates that something has kind of gone wonky. And then we can add another one if we want, and now we've got 7/8 of a block. So there's a lot more freedom in terms of what you can do with edge smoothing and things of that nature when you can adjust things by 1/8 of a block instead of by half of a block as sort of like the maximum resolution, if you will. So here we can do 5/8 of a block. We don't even have to start with a slab. We can start with a panel or a cover, and we can put a cover on there. I don't even know if it matters. I try and keep in my mind that I don't want to do things like sort of 2 covers side by side. If I find myself doing that, I'll swap it out for that guy, the single panel. And that way we're not, you know, if there's a performance issue that's going to arise because we're using too many different kinds of blocks, it's not going to be because we're stacking blocks that we don't need to when one block would do. But you can see, we can get kind of a nice little refinement there. Basically leaves things limited only to your imagination for all practical intents and purposes. And when you see the triangle now embedded in the circular floor, we're going to be using this edge smoothing method so that it should be an even more refined end result than what we would get if we just used the slab edge smoothing. And that's it. So the next episode, you'll see the triangle embedded in the circles, and then we'll move on to the next step in the build. If you want to be notified when I add that video, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are in the information section below the video. Please don't be afraid to leave your comments and feedback. I do read all of them, and they're usually helpful. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.